What's going to be? How's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys know who it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. Hey, everybody. It is our Christmas episode. As is the episode right before Christmas, December 22nd. It's the holidays teaching. Boop beep. And why are we in a good mood? Because the conversation we just had with this band is just straight up positivity to its core. Positive energy, positive vibes, positive music, positive everything in the most hardcore fashion. Oh yeah, before we get going into it though, I want to thank support for this podcast from FNX Fitness. Yes, FNX Fitness, Phoenix Fitness, they are sponsoring this podcast. And yes, it is the holiday season. You know, we're eating all that good holiday food: ham, turkey, steak, shrimp, lobster, whatever casserole your Aunt Carrie made, cookies, cake, whatever it is. Yeah, it's a lot of food, a lot of celebrating. I understand it. And for a lot of us out there too, you know, we want to make sure that, you know, as time goes on, we want to make sure we're still mosh pit ready. Yeah, me. I want to make sure I'm still mosh pit ready. I want to make sure that I can still fly through those mosh pits, make sure I'm still able to go ham the entire time, go nuts, not lose any energy. Well, of course, you know, you're going to give a lot of energy, but still be able to hit as hard in those mosh pits during the last song of the set of the day. Like, same as the first song of the night. So I hit the gym a lot. I lift a lot. I go running a lot. I do a lot of cardio. Absolutely. But I need to make sure I can prepare, recover right, because yeah, you know, it takes a toll on the body. That's where Phoenix Fitness comes in. They have a lot of great supplements to help you prepare and recover everything you need on fnxfit.com. I personally use the protein, just the regular protein, the whey protein. I don't do any of the collagen stuff for the vegan stuff, just not my style. And I also use their non-stim pre-workout as well because, me and caffeine, I don't need any more of that energy than I already have. So that's what I use, and it helps me stay mosh pit ready. So stay mosh pit ready with us with help from Phoenix Fitness. Our listeners and viewers on YouTube can get 20% off your entire order using the code CPB20 at checkout.fnxfit.com. Link description of the podcast. Thank you, Phoenix Fitness. Get mosh pit ready with us. Oh yeah. Now to our feature presentation. We want to stay positive this Christmas, right? What about hardcore music? Positive. That's what we have Knelt Before on the podcast. Their brand new album, Be Nice, is out now. Hardcore with a pop punk mix, all about that positive vibe. And we have Mark from the band on the podcast. And this is all about positivity, where we talk about the music, the positivity behind it, how he wrote this music, and how he connects with music with his son in mind. How this album connects with his son and just expressing that positive music, and how we're starting to see more of that positivity come through in music and through real life with more tours happening, with more bands from different backgrounds, and not having to be like, oh, we're going to stick strictly to this. Basically just using the positivity to have more people be more accepting of certain things and more open to certain things. So please welcome Mark from Knelt Before to the podcast. Are you ready? Let's go! Yeah. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. You know I'm a big fan of everything that comes within rock and metal and all those different types of subgenres in there. Punk rock being one of my favorites, but now we're diving into something that's got that classic hardcore feel with a pop punk mix, and I'm like, oh dear God, I want to check this out. And when it comes to the feeling around there, it's all about the feeling of positivity. So this band recently released their first album called Be Nice back in October, and now it is out for you guys to go check out. Go enjoy some of that positive feeling. Great hitting, classic hardcore action from this band. So please welcome Mark from the band Knelt Before the podcast. So Mark, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Howdy, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you on, man. How has everything been going? I mean, I know the album's been out for about a month now as we're recording this episode. So how has everything been on your end personally, along with, you know, everything with Knelt Before?
It's actually been quite a surprise. I mean, the project really just was me and Don at first, our guitar player. We added on my friend Shannon, and then we brought on Derek. And it wasn't really supposed to be like something we pushed too much. It was just something that we wanted to make some positive music for ourselves. And then if we put it out, we put it out. And if people like it, they liked it. But the response has been crazy. So many people are digging on it. And I mean, I guess positive music just resonates with a lot of people. So, yeah, everything we've heard has been really good, and it's made us feel good, and we want to do more. And so now we're trying to do a little more and get more shows and get out there. And, you know, it's just one thing pushes you to do more, and then that pushes you to do more, and then keep going. So that's where we're at right now.
You're at the beginning of that snowball effect where you wanted to try something once again. You do it out of the love for the music, love for the creation, love for the process. You put something out there, and then the positivity of the message, the positivity of the sound ends up picking up, connecting with people. They end up listening to it. They end up liking it. So now it's, shoot, this thing's starting to gain some momentum. Let's go out there, play some shows. Let's bring that hardcore style out to the people and bring that positivity too. So for people like myself, we can go see Knelt Before play live, hardcore style, everyone's going crazy. Those mosh pits are going, and it's just pure bliss and pure happiness. And if I get, smacked in the face, I'm going to be like, oh, this is fun. Let's go again.
That was my favorite. I went and saw Far. I don't know if you remember them many years ago. And I got smacked in the eye with the microphone from Jonah. And I was just like, best experience. Got a black eye, bloody. And I was just like, yeah. And then he felt really bad and kind of got in my face, and he was singing, and I got in his face, and I got blood on him. And he's like, he got a little weirded out by my excitement, but it's infectious. You're happy, they're happy, you're just running around. And that's the great thing about music, positive, or even like negative music. If you hear some like crazy metal and you're dealing with the same thing they're dealing with, you're getting that emotion from what you're listening to. And that's kind of your cathartic release. And, it's cool to get into it either way, because that's how we process. And a lot of people, like, we're not really big on sitting in a circle talking about our feelings all the time. So being able to have some kind of outlet, positive or releasing negativity in a negative setting, like, that's what we all go towards, and that's what it's going to help us through whatever we're feeling.
And in a certain way too, it is really healthy to do something like that, because if you leave all those emotions, bottled up inside, and you just kind of don't have a way to express them, they just build up and up in you to the point where you have to let them out at some point, and that explosion might happen out of nowhere, and it could come at the worst possible time. But for a lot of people, maybe like yourself, like myself, like a lot of people that listen to the podcast, we go to shows and we go to, see our favorite bands, whether the music is more positive, whether it's more emotional, whether it deals with more negative emotions, whatever it might be, to really lose ourselves within that moment and really let go of a lot of those emotions. And if you like to jump into those mosh pits like myself, you just let go a lot of that, anger, frustration, certain things that you're feeling in the most positive way, because you're pushing people, you're shoulder checking people, they're giving it right back to you. And of course, by the end of the song or by the end of the set, everyone's high-fiving each other, hugging each other. It's that cathartic release of just any pent-up emotion, and the music is such a strong driver of that. And just all the energy that's coming through there, it's kind of like a revival religious experience in a way, but in a way that, people from the outside looking in might be looking like, how is that an emotional, like, positive release when people are just smashing into each other? It's, you just got to jump into one of those things and experience it for yourself at this point. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. 17 years ago, I was in a band, and at the time we were getting signed to Ferret, and I was working in a jail as a record supervisor, and the deputies, like, I had hair. The deputies wanted to see me play, and I was like, I don't know if this is your style of music. Like, oh, no, we want to go see it. We were playing in Orange County at a place called Chain Reaction. And when they saw me, I was the screamer and the guitar player. And so I'm this quiet guy that just does my job and doesn't really cause any waves at work. And then I let my hair down when I had it at the show and just screaming. And then it got caught in a fan. And so it got, I'm got blood dripping down, and we weren't even like a really scary, heavy band. We were kind of a poppy metal band, but I was the screamer. And so I got blood and screaming. And the next day at work, the deputies are like, I don't know what to say to you. Like, they enjoyed it, but it scared the crap out of them seeing me like going nuts like that. And I was like, and then next day at work, and I'm sure there's a ton of people that are like that. Like, when they're in their element, they're wow. And then you just go back to work the next day and you're just like, normal, positive guy. And just a shock to them. So I've always taken kind of some pride in that. And I mean, currently right now, same thing. I'm at my job and I'm low key and I just do my thing. And then when I play, I'm screaming and flailing around, and it's fun.
It is fun. And that is just something that, it kind of speaks to a lot of just the positive feeling and the positive amount of energy and just the life it gives us when we go to these shows, or when from your perspective, when you're performing, because when you're at work, you're just happy-go-lucky, just kind of enjoying, just, going by, just having a good day. But when you're up on stage, it's just that energy comes flowing out of you with such intensity, with such passion, with such power that you get your hair caught in a fan, start bleeding down the side of your face, and basically not feel a thing because the adrenaline from that energy is just pumping through your veins and you just don't feel it. I've had people that I work with for my full-time job that, I'm always energetic as all hell. And they know I love going to these shows. They're like, oh, yeah, we should see you in a mosh pit and jump in with you. And I look at them and I think, do you really want to do this? Because if you go to a certain show and all of a sudden it's with a band where all of a sudden my brain just clicks into a whole different level, you jump into that pit, bad things might happen because you're not going to expect this one guy flying from the side smacking you. It's like, well, who the hell was that? And then they're just going to be me going, woo! On to the next person.
Yeah, it's always funny having people that are outside of that scene and trying to bring them in. Like my wife is totally, nowhere near. She likes J-pop and happy, like sweet music, and she's like, let's hear what your band sounds like. And she's heard my old music, and I listen to a lot of stuff in the car that she's just kind of like, yeah, this is nice. Like I played Watain or Killer Be Killed, and like she's okay with it. But when it's coming from me, she's are you sure you're okay? You're feeling good? I was like, yeah, well, listen to the lyrics. The music's happy. And that's like, like Kill Switch Engage. It's my favorite song, Vita Infra, is just like screaming, no one is placed higher than another, no matter race, nor creed, nor gender. We must seek forgiveness and compassion for all of life. It's just like, it's the most beautiful lyric. And he is just screaming, like angry sounding, screaming. And after hearing that, I was like, huh, that's really cool. Because before that, like my litmus was Saves the Day, where it's just like the opposite end, where it's just nice, pretty singing, and he's talking about hanging somebody from a cross and letting, what was it, as your ghost takes flight, where it's, I drink your blood, feel it dripping down my throat, heading for my heart. It's just like super negative stuff, but it's pretty, happy singing. And then this is just the opposite of it, where you've got this super positive message coming from someone who's trying to rip out your throat screaming. So, and she's getting there. She doesn't quite understand why I enjoy doing it, and she'll get there. I'll have to include her and my son. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say she'll get there, especially with, you said, she's more into like the J-pop kind of style stuff. There's definitely more Japanese artists, or even more like other artists around there, including some of those J-pop stylings in their music. And then there might be that connection there where it's like, oh, now I'm seeing the elements in J-pop that really bring forward the positivity and this just positive emotion that I feel when I listen. And now you're seeing how it connects with, some of this heavier, this faster style metal. And then all of a sudden now you're seeing kind of just how that heaviness drives a lot of the emotion, drives a lot of the passion that's behind it. Like with Kill Switch Engage, you get this pulse pounding, heavy, fast style that, and either Jesse or Howard, depending upon what area you're in, just screaming their asses off. It's like, now this sounds really angry, but it could be the most positive thing in the world. Take a look at what they did on the Signal Fire on their 2019 album Atonement, where they had Howard come in as a feature of it, and it's such a positive song, and in the verses it sounds like Jesse and Howard are just going off on something that's absolutely terrible, but no, it's such a positive song about being together. How awesome is that?
The first time I heard it was the video, and it was just like, you watch the video and you see the hand, you're like, oh, and he comes out, I was like, what?
Yeah, you see the hand. Yeah. You see the hand. It's like, oh, and then all of a sudden they show the back of his head. You're just like, oh, and then all of a sudden they show him screaming. You're just like, no.
Yeah.
What?
That was awesome. And I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but there's a J-pop metal band called Lady Baby. It's an Australian wrestler who lives in Japan, and you really got to look it up. It's kind of baby metal with a screamer, but a little more like, they're all wear like the Lolita, like the baby dresses, even him. It's amazing. They had a couple videos. I don't know what happened. He got really crazy into bodybuilding, not like Timlin Beast is crazy. Yeah. I'm from Orange County, so I'm allowed to say that stuff, right?
Yeah.
um, but like he and his girlfriend or something got like crazy into bodybuilding, and so he broke off from the band and he's doing his own thing. But they put out a couple of singles, and the videos for it are hilarious and amazing, and the music's actually really good. And hearing, look it up, Lady Baby, for all of your listeners. Check it out. It's
I'm
about 10 years old.
I'm gonna have to look that up because over time I've enjoyed more Bay Metal music over the years. At first I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but then all of a sudden I started listening to other stuff. Like, okay, I'm picking up on this. And then when Bay Metal did the when they had the feature on the Bring Me the Horizon post-human survival horror EP on Kingslayer, I'm like, oh my god, this is fantastic. Now you're saying, there's something more that's maybe around that realm with a band called Lady Baby. Okay, I gotta go check this out, right after this, because my god, that sounds like it's absolutely nuts. But also from like a metal perspective too, with me not really being into J-pop, I've kind of understood a little bit more of why people like it and why people derive a lot of positivity from it based off of those bands that have molded both those sounds together and made it something of their own.
Well, and it's like the people that can't latch on to the lyrics because they don't know them can listen to kind of the poppy stuff and then get some of the screaming and then still get the poppy. And so it really makes you move because it has elements of techno and all that crazy stuff that they like, that they do. And you've got these little cute voices and you have no idea what they're saying, but it sounds adorable. And then all of a sudden the guy comes like just this guttural, crazy screaming. And oh, I can't. I wish we could pause and just show a clip of it. Like it's so hilarious watching them, and I really try to get my wife into that stuff to kind of like segue her into uh, more screaming music, and she's like, well, I like this part.
It might.
And I guess we probably shouldn't watch the video.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it might just take some time as well, because even for myself, when it took, getting into the music that I'm into now, especially when I was, maybe like, 19, 20, 21 years old, I really didn't like anything that had any sort of unclean or screaming vocal in it, just because
Sure.
I just couldn't resonate. I couldn't understand it. The only thing that I actually liked from any kind of artist that did it was Linkin Park with Chester Bennington, because I could feel the power behind those vocals. But it was the
Yeah.
door that kind of opened it up, and all of a sudden I started getting into some more stuff. I listened to Architect's Holy Hell album, and now I understood it even more, knowing the backstory behind the album, what had happened to them before that album, and just hearing how the sounds played with, how the instrumentals played within the vocal sounds, and it made so much more sense. Then someone told me to listen to Motionless in White. I heard Eternally Yours, and I was like, okay, now I understand this completely. It all depends upon kind of just opening up to that journey and then understanding how the unclean, those screaming vocals match with the instrumentals that are being put behind it, the way that the energy is being flowed, whether it's fast or whether it's slow, or whether it's with more of this bursting style, whether it's more melodic, just how everything plays off explains how heavy the emotion is, whatever the message is, whether it's something deep, whether it's something depressing, whether it's something exciting, whether it's something just pure happiness and pure joy, whatever it is, so much that plays into that. And it takes slow understanding to potentially get there for a lot of people, but there's always going to be one artist where it's like you show someone this, like, okay, I like this part, but maybe not this part. But as time goes on, maybe they start to understand a little bit more, and then they're open to some more of these things where all of a sudden now they hear these crazy vocals. It's like, oh my God, this absolutely fucking slaps. Woo!
Yeah, I got her. She's into Ghost. She likes Kill or Be Killed, but she doesn't like the Greg parts. And she's okay with Soulfly, and I guess it's because Max is a little more like you can understand some parts of it, just the way that he sings. So she's coming around. But I mean, the funniest part is my son, and he when you have a baby, you always want to play some kind of music in the background. Just it gets them used to that background noise. So like if you're vacuuming or something, it won't wake them up. So the two things I use to get him used to it, minus the bare Maniceloso, and now I got to remember the name of it. which is hilarious because it's such a good name. Oh, it's a black metal band, Satanic War Master. Man, I almost forgot that one. And so, like, I really wanted to kind of give him, the good gamut of music.
Mm.
So he's got the singing from Minus the Bear, and then he's got the Satanic War Master stuff. And watching him and how he reacted to both of those, um, minus the bear, we like Pachuca Sunrise would play when he was trying to, get him to sleep in the background, and that helps him kind of relax. Um, Satanic War Master was his kind of, uh, I did it while he was just kind of playing quietly or just kind of cruising around. And so as he got older, he would hear something that had more kind of driving guitar stuff, and he would start dancing. When he was, I'd say 2, we were at the beach, and he saw a palm tree, and there was music playing from a restaurant nearby. And he looked at the palm tree, stuck his hand up, and then just like started doing that at the palm tree. And it was I can't remember what band. It was just like a rock song. And he loves palm trees, and he heard the music, and he just gets really into it. And he has now associated that feeling, that love, with seeing palm trees. So anytime we go on a vacation, we live in Oregon right now. So like anytime we go to Hawaii or someplace that has palm trees, uh, he's like, palm trees, palm trees. He just gets super excited when he sees them. And he gets that same kind of excited, happy emotion when he hears any of like the driving rock music that I'll listen to. And so just having, it's not even like, it's not the lyrics, it's not the specific song, it's just the emotion that he gets and that he associates with that feeling with the palm trees or with the music. And like to have kind of, just a simple understanding of this makes me feel good, and to be able to get that emotion and feel that emotion from something is just the greatest thing. Like, and all the songs that we've recorded, uh, we've made a real point to it. It's all positive. There's no cussing. They're all kind of a conversation between he and I. Um, for as he gets older, it's like a manual of how to live life. And so if you actually like go back and listen through the songs, so the first one is like how I deal with anger. The second one is it's kind of about work, but it's like not letting certain things control your life. And then the next one is if you're going to do something, do it with all your heart and make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. And so right now, he's speech delayed, and so he doesn't always understand the lyrics from it, but he can enjoy the music. And so the fun thing is watching him listen to those songs, and then like take a part out of it and start to understand. Oh, I understand that sentence, and then repeat that sentence, and then start taking that in. One thing that he does to work on his speech is he actually records cover songs. So we've done Faith No More, We Care a Lot, Andrew WK, Party Hard, um, a bunch of Ramon songs. He knows all the lyrics to like Billy Joel, The Piano Man, and Birdhouse in Your Soul by They Might Be Giants. And it's so awesome watching him do this thing. We'll record. At first, we recorded like a word, and I would stitch together a song from it. So like We Care a Lot, he did one word at a time, and I just stitched the whole song together. He'd go back, listen to it, and then he would sing along with it, and he would get like 3 words, and then sing along with it and get a whole sentence, and then get his whole stanza. And so it's just immensely helped his speech by listening to himself and kind of doing this thing. And as he does it more, once he starts knowing the lyrics, then he starts listening to like the meaning of the lyrics and the content. And so then he'll like ask a question about it, or kind of contextually appropriately use a lyric to explain a situation. So that's a big motivator for me to write lyrics the way that I do, is so that it's something that's accessible to him. And I'm like, other people aren't my son. And so to have other people kind of listen to those lyrics and like feel that music and kind of get that same positivity and do all that stuff, it's awesome because it's made for him really, but everyone can get something from it. And so it's just like, there's so many different facets to music that people can just latch onto. It's like a harmony or a melody. Like you can get one little part and that part makes you feel good. So you just want to hear that one little part. There's, my son listens to the songs and he likes the heaviness of them, but he likes the accessibility of the words because I'm not putting anything super difficult. I'm not stringing together $20 words in there. Because I want to make it accessible. I want people to enjoy it. And except for there's a song in Japanese, but that one I had to do it because I spent almost 10 years learning the language and forgot all of it.
So you had to throw that one in there just for yourself.
Yeah. Well, and I have been so many places around the world touring and visiting and stuff, but I've never actually stopped and got to see people or hang out with people. And so I've always appreciated other cultures and other languages, and people try so hard to learn English and want American English. So like every time I've been to Japan, it's like they only want to speak American English with me. So I never got to practice my Japanese and it went terrible. And then like I've been to France and everyone says, oh, France hates Americans and blah, blah, blah. Well, it's because Americans go over there and assume that everybody speaks English. If you put half an effort into learning French going out there, you try your best, they will definitely come way down. Like they'll more than meet you halfway. And the fact that there's all these people that come to English because it's like an entertainment and that's the universal language for so many things. Like as a, I don't know, responsible person, I feel it fair that I should do my part so the next one we're doing a split with this German band called Axids, and we're doing a song in German, and then I want to do a song in Spanish and French and Icelandic and whatever I can, because it's awesome learning another language and writing something and then making something accessible to a whole other group of people. And it's that infectious part of this, like people enjoy what we're doing and latch onto the message, and to be able to make it more accessible, why not? So
I mean, there's so much to unpack in that 7-8 minute segment that you just put in there. And I'm amazed by a lot of that too. So, I mean, the main thing I want to jump into is, especially when it comes to Be Nice from Knelt Before, from you guys, when it comes to the making of it and just the overall positivity behind it. One thing that I got from it, specifically from the positivity, it wasn't necessarily from the vocals or just the words or anything, but a lot of it came from the construction smells and specifically how the guitar tone and how the guitar is played throughout it, because the energy that was behind a lot of these songs with the way the guitar tone was, it had a little bit of a higher pitch to it consistently. But when you have a little bit of a higher pitch to it, especially with more of a hardcore pop punk kind of style, mix of a song, that's going to bring forward a lot more of these positive emotions, a lot more of these positive connotations that a lot of people associate with music, like myself. So all of a sudden, even if you can't understand any of the lyrics, anything that's going on, you're like, oh my God, I'm feeling a good, positive emotional vibe going through this thing. So when I picked up, I'm like, okay, I can clearly tell that a lot of these messages are for the positive, for the betterment of a lot of us, for the betterment of our own emotions, for us understanding certain things about ourselves, just given that. But the specific where this is kind of more of a conversation between you and your son, and it's something to not only help your son with his speech, but also to help him understand life and understand the world, understand his own emotions and how to process those and how to explain those using music, understanding it, and how these certain metaphors that people put into their lyrics, how they explain certain things in life, that we can take those metaphors, understand how they were said, how they were sung, how they were screamed, and the way the instrumentals are played underneath them, how everything that happens, how that emotion puts in that lyric, how that makes us feel, and how certain aspects of our lives now relate to those. We can have a better understanding of things we went through. It's like an emotional journey that we're going through, but instead of having to follow along with what whoever the person that wrote the song is go through their journey, it's metaphorical enough where we can go through that emotion with them, but we can put our own selves, our own stories in there, and then fly right through it and really get a further understanding of what we're going through. So from your son's perspective, with him getting a lot of the positivity off of this, the positivity absolutely radiates through the style of the music, through the sound of the guitar tone from my end, specifically how I saw it. However, just the connection that you're making there and making sure that, connecting your son to having that more of a positive experience, and even with, helping him with his speech, this creates such this positive environment that when he's consistently listening to the style of music, like you've done for with the background music you had on for him when he was young, and how you're continuing to work with him with certain words, stitching these songs together and combining them so that he builds up the confidence within that. It is something that is utterly amazing. It just proves the power of music, of something that many people have created, but in this instance specifically, what you have created to not only connect people from around the world with that sense of positivity, but have this even deeper connection with your son based off of how you have made music such a positive thing for him, and how it's been such a positive thing on your relationship between father and son.
Man, I'm gonna cry. Yeah, I mean, I've been asked by people like, "Are you worried how people are going to interpret your lyrics?" I'm like, I literally wrote this to my son, so it's like I'm not expecting people to take it the same way. And as long as it's not something like super negative, like you take it and assume that I mean something ridiculous, like that's like you're saying that's the power of music. Is you can listen to it, you can get something totally different out of it. You can see it as a conversation between two people and not take the content of the lyrics, but be like, wow, this guy's talking to his son. Do they have a relationship? I latch on to the relationship that I had with my family member. And like, it doesn't have to be that I'm talking about anger and it's how I dealt with it. I'm not really trying to say this is how you should deal with it. Uh, Most of it's like, this happened to me. This is what I chose to do. And that's it. I'm not trying to put anything out there that I'm putting upon other people. Like my whole life, I'm vegan and I'm straight edge, but I haven't really gotten along with a lot of vegan or straight edge people because they, in general, I'm going to generalize, sorry, but I have had mostly negative experiences with vegan and straight edge people because they are trying to impress a value upon people. And coming from Orange County in the late 90s, early 2000s, people would drive from Reno and get into fights in Orange County. People would drive from Orange County, go to Reno and get into fights. And like, I just couldn't imagine somebody laying on the ground, bloody, beat up, being like, wow, I should really reevaluate my life and stop drinking because this guy just beat the poop out of me. And I had a friend in high school who was hanging out at a 7-Eleven. He was smoking a cigarette, and a bunch of guys came up with like pipes, bashed his head, and he's got a plate in his head and stuff. And like, how does that make you want to change your lifestyle? And they beat him up because he was goth and like not even hardcore goth. He dressed differently, and he liked the movie Hackers, which came out that time, and he wore a trench coat, and they were jocks, and they didn't get along, so they decided to just beat him up. Like, it's just so ridiculous that people can take an ideology or a personal opinion even and go to such extremes expecting that they're going to get a positive outcome from it. And so I can't assume that just because I am this way or just because that I write this lyric or feel this way, that the person that's taking it in is going to take it in the exact same way or the exact way that I am presenting it. That's not the purpose. The purpose is I am releasing something to the world that this happened to me at this moment and this is how I felt, and they can latch on to whatever part of it they like. I just hope that they take something positive away from it. And so like I'll listen, like you were saying about the tone of the music and the tuning of it. Like, I love 90s hardcore. Madball, Set It Off was like, that was it. I heard that and Biohazard, World Address, and all. I've more latched on to East Coast hardcore than I did West Coast hardcore. West Coast hardcore, they started tuning down. It got a little darker, a little more metally. The chords all went lower and more sludgy. I latch on to the high, songs that are in A and not in E, not like drop F. And so that's always been, as you said, that's how I have associated a certain style of music with a certain emotion. It's more emotional for me to play in a higher register, which makes, singing hard. So that's why I do screaming. And I enjoy bands that tune down and have 8 strings and like Archspire. I love them to death. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
I haven't.
It's, oh my God, that's another ridiculous band you should check out. The drummer, they are the nicest Canadians ever, which, they're Canadians. The music is just ridiculous. It's super fast. It's super techy. If you went to one of their shows, I don't know how you would dance or move to it. Most of them would just stand there slack jawed. Just, like the first time I saw Dillinger Escape Plan was opening for Mr. Bungle. And that's when they still had, what was his name? The first singer. He has a Russian name.
I can't think of it off the top of my head right now.
Like Mullet Burden, Calculating Infinity just came out. And I'll feel really bad now that I can't remember his name. Anyway, but they were on tour with Mr. Bungle. Mr. Bungle had just put out the Californian. Like, nobody knew what to do when they heard that music. And just, I'd heard the album and I was really into it. And I knew where the parts were. And so like Mullet Burden, and then so I'm kind of tapping along with it, and someone's looking at me like, "What the hell are you doing this?" And like knowing when the parts come in, like that's all I could do is, and watching everybody else around me, just like it's hilarious, and I love the band, but other than technical amazingness and just marveling at how good they are, I struggle to actually like pull thematic, parts from their music. And so it's a really big tangent, like you said, I'm sorry. But like,
I understand.
Archspire, same thing. Like you listen to them and you're just like, how are you guys doing this? And it's just another level. It's awesome hearing that stuff. It's not something that I would do because I can't pull an emotion from it, but I definitely can admire how just freaking ridiculous they are at it.
Oh, and when it comes to just what we talked about, where you went before on that tangent, when it comes to just how people just, they treat other people poorly based off of, maybe something they don't like, just a characteristic about that person they don't like. It might be something they don't understand or something that's just, they're so ingrained in what they think, where it's like anything that goes against it just really doesn't fit in with, their style. So coming from a music perspective, if someone listens to this and they're so focused in on, oh, I only like, hip hop and rap, whatever's popular and pop music right now, and they listen to this, and they're just not connected to it, they might have a negative response to it. And again, it's understandable because it's just not what they're associating with, not what they're into. But with people that we know, like I would say, just have more of this affinity for rock and metal, when they listen to what you've put out there, with the way that the tonality of everything is, the pacing, just the upbeat style of the hardcore that you're working with, yeah, it definitely makes you feel that more positive message throughout every single song. Even if using some of the more pop punk stylings in there with it, that adds so much more of the positivity, that a little bit more of the mass, like, the more the popular audience would be able to understand a little more of that positivity based off of that. So it just makes sense that, some people get the positivity out of it. Some people might not, because they might just not as closely associate with it. However, again, the purpose is that you wrote this album was to connect with your son and to have that conversation with your son. So the real thing is going to be, how is that connection going to play? That's really where the focus is on, and how other people are able to connect with it in such a positive way. That's really where that connection is going to come in. Now, I will agree with you. There are some bands out there and some other artists out there where, and this is on a personal thing too, you can connect with them based off of their thematics, based off of their lyrics, based on how everything is presented in that realm. But there are some where it's just, even myself, I listen to them and there's some of them I'm just like, thematically and just trying to kind of come up with like, can I connect with your message? Not really. It's maybe something I just don't fully understand, or maybe something I just can't fully connect because I haven't experienced it, or maybe the way that the way that the lyrics are being put out there, the way the music is, it just doesn't hit me on that certain style. But the way the instrumentals are, the way everything sounds, maybe that just clicks with me in a more positive thing, and maybe that just hits off, and I'm like, okay, I don't really care for the lyrics, the style, just nothing that. But when I hear that music, when I hear the instrumentals, there's something so powerful about it that just gets me in more of this positive emotion, whether it's energized, happy, just adrenaline rush, whatever it is. I'm going to end up wanting to listen to it for that, even though maybe some things don't necessarily fully click on mine. If there's something I like about it, boom, I'm going to end up going to it. When it comes to Knelt Before, when it comes to what you guys have done on Be Nice, yeah, the positive energy that's behind there, that's going to be something I return to in the future because, hey, I love the pace. I love, the hardcore styling of it. But that positive energy, even if I'm not fully connecting with some of these songs, with the message, that positive energy, that positive tonality is something I can return to and always have a good time listening to.
Yeah, and I mean, if you've ever seen festival lineups outside of America, they are hilarious. Like, how are these bands playing together? And Henry Rollins is just like the greatest spoken word uh, stuff to listen to. And I've been listening to his stuff for years. And my favorite things are him talking about his time going, playing around with the Rollins band. And he's talking about a show that he did with Sheryl Crow and like Candlebox and or Collective Soul or something, like a bunch of bands. And you just like, how did all these bands get together? And I've had a couple opportunities to play like Fluff Fest in Sweden, some more hardcore shows where it was a little more homogenous, but still like we were on with bands that we shouldn't have been on especially in America.
Mm-hmm.
We did a tour out here. It was Losa, It Dies Today. This was, forever ago. And Losa was a metal blade band and like stoner psych metal, awesome band. And then It Dies Today was, a little, I didn't really say what band I was in. I was in Love Hate Hero, which no one probably heard of. But so we were opening, and it was It Dies Today. And so like we played California and we were well received. We start going towards Texas, and then it's just Losa that's well received. We get to New York, they're sitting with their backs turned for the first three bands and only listening to It Dies Today. And then you go to, some European country and you're playing with black metal bands and death metal bands and pop bands. And they don't care who you are. They love you to death. They will listen to whatever you're doing. They will buy whatever you put in front of them because they are so happy and so thankful that you bothered to come out there and visit them. And even if they aren't into your scene and your style of music, they will find something to latch on to because they are in the moment they just want to enjoy themselves because they just love life. And that's also so cool. Like you were saying, you might not get into 90% of it, but you find that thing. And when you latch onto that one little thing, like that can just turn your day around. And you could be just scanning the radio and you hear some band that you're just like, oh my God, that was Taylor Swift. It's just like, and it's just, this little part that you listen to. And that's enough to kind of turn your mood around. Like you're having a bad day, something happened, and like you're just scanning the same songs don't do it for you because you're in a different space right then.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just kind of bounce around and suddenly somebody says one little thing in one little song and you're like, oh, yeah, I guess it's not so bad. And that's, again, the power of music. Just so awesome that stuff like that could happen. And so unfortunate that people in America aren't as open as they are in other parts of the world to just being in that experience and being more open to that stuff. And like just being closed minded about, like the kill switch analogy that I was making earlier, not wanting to listen to them or let your kids listen to that type of music or that band specifically because it sounds so bad. And then you're like, well, I mean, their lyrics are positive and they're a Christian band. So you know, you can't really poo poo them too much, as you know, and because typically it's coming from a certain group of people that follow a
Oh
certain
yeah.
path. So
Oh yeah, it always comes from a certain peak group, people that always follow a certain path that are always against it. And the funny thing is the people that follow that certain path, it's that path is always about accepting others and about loving each other and about just having respect for each other. And then they're just going off and just basically lambasting you or just going off because yeah, you're listening to something that they don't understand or they think is negative when they're not necessarily listening to the lyrics. They're just listening to how low the guitar tune is and how fast it's going. It's like, oh my God. But what you said about, US audiences versus European audiences, I'm seeing a slight shift in that with some of the US tours that are being put together, but it's very slow and it's very limited where people just aren't, it's like they want the same thing, they want the certain style, and that's all they want. They're not open to the experience, except then all of a sudden, you're able to be open to the experience, and next thing you know, you're able to enjoy it. The best example I have from that from 2022 was Knocked Loose had a headlining tour back in like March and April, and I got to go see it. And they had I forgot who the opener was, but they had Kubla Khan with them. I'm like, okay, Kubla Khan, hardcore, Knocked Loose, hardcore. This makes sense.
yeah,
But Kubla Khan went on second, Knocked Loose headline and went on fourth. They had the band of Movements, who's a pop punk band, go in between them, which if you looked at those, like, how in the hell is this actually going to work? But I was curious to see what was going to happen. So, during their set, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be in the crowd, see what happens. The energy that this band brought was one thing that had people latching onto them to the point where, yeah, we weren't, going and, into these pits, throwing stuff, throwing elbows and throwing shoulders and pushing people around. No, everyone was just vibing, having one hell of a fun time. And it was such a positive experience. I'm like, man, I want to listen to some more Movements after this, even though it was a show where I was expecting to get punched in the face. But my God, it's just things that some of these weird tour packages, I wish we get some more of them because it allows us just to latch on to so many more bands and so many more artists where, yeah, there might be, a style that you just don't really like or just get into. But you see that band live and all of a sudden you get this certain positive experience from it, this certain positive outlook from it, this positive emotion from it. Then you start to check out that band more because you remember that and you want to replicate that feeling when you're feeling down or when you just need that little bit of an energy boost. And then you start to listen to it more, you start to understand more of it, and you want to find more bands that are like that. So all of a sudden, okay, now you're going to start going into something maybe a little bit more on the hard rock side, or maybe you're starting to go a little bit more on the metalcore side, or something that has a bands that are encompassing a lot of these different styles and can do a lot of different things, like Bring Me the Horizon, like Bad Omens. And then all of a sudden you're going to see these bands and all of a sudden you're going to get into hardcore bands. Like, okay, now you're getting your Knocked Loose phase, and all of a sudden you're listening to Kubla Khan, now you're listening to Knelt Before, now you're listening to all these other bands, and next thing you know, your musical palette is just so much more vast, and you're just enjoying many different things where, okay, yeah, you want to go to a show with your friends that like pop music? Absolutely go there. Oh, your girlfriend wants to take you to an EDM show or a dubstep show? Yeah, go for it. You might get something positive out of it. Oh, you want to go and see Seven Dust play? Abso-freaking-lutely. Let's go. You're just driving positivity from the emotion that you get when you see music and hear live music and just listen to it on the daily. Man, music is powerful as shit.
yeah, and that's really one thing that has my experiences from my touring days forever ago, but I've always admired a lot of Florida bands, which it's really hard to admire Florida as a state, but the bands like Further Seems Forever and their new band Darling Fire, and just kind of their progression throughout, and then having, not specifically from down there, but East Coast, Shai Hulud, Newfound Glory, and all these bands that, and Fall Out Boy, and all these bands that they explore this one genre and still live in this genre, or vice versa, or are able to kind of go back and forth, and to be able, coalesce it, and Get Up Kids, and it's such a cool dichotomy that people have explored, and to be able to do that, and to be able to do that so successfully for all these bands is super awesome. And like you said, I wish there were more of those type of shows and tours, and the more that it happens and the more positivity it receives, the more likely it's becoming. And as people are becoming more open-minded to that type of stuff, it's increasing, and I'm really stoked to see that type of stuff for me, historically, I haven't seen it a lot, and I'm excited to see more of it. So it's it's really cool to hear something like that. Like I didn't know that that tour happened, and like even Kubla Khan and Knocked Loose, like they're not exactly in the same part of hardcore, and so you'd have bands like that, touring 20 years ago, and they'd be like, nope, it's got to be tough guy hardcore or melodic hardcore or metalcore, but they can't all be, what is this? They can't be together. And so you get these, groups of people together, and like it's that Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other because they can't be around each other. Like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? And even, that's why I was like, oh crap, Kubla Khan with them. Like, it's it's sad to know that that type of stuff wouldn't have existed, and not even that long ago, 20 years ago, where it's starting, it's happening, and that's really awesome. It's just, yeah, I want it to happen faster,
I
but
want to happen faster too. It's happening, but it's
I'm
just
getting
happening
too old.
yeah. It's just happening at too slow of a rate because honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it would be cool if all of a sudden, with Taylor Swift going on that massive tour she's going on, what if Dayseeker opened for her on a couple of shows? Just yeah, you're bringing in a completely different band with a completely different vibe, but you never know what might happen. People might really get into that emotional stuff. It might happen. Why not give it a shot? Because yeah,
Yeah, and I mean like the Metallica tour that they just announced, where they have I can't remember who was on it, but
oh god,
like
yeah.
well, the international ones like Ice Nine Kills, and like that's really cool of them to be taking that band out. And when they go out and do their world tour, they find some. I mean, Ice Nine Kills is way bigger than some of the bands that they take out in other countries, but they take out some smaller unknown bands and kind of they don't necessarily match the genre. And um, well, I'll say it's the Victory model. Like Victory Records would always take their biggest band and put them on tour with their smallest band, and it would just they'd all like it would rise that band up, and then they would do that same thing. When that band got big, they'd bring up that smaller band. And having larger bands have that kind of responsibility to be like, you know, this is our opportunity to introduce the world to the type of music that we enjoy, the type that influences us. And it might not be the same style of music, but we dig it. You should dig it. And like I haven't really been a huge Metallica fan for quite a while, but I have always admired their work ethic and them as people and what they've gone through and how they treat music and how they present music to people in so many different styles. And good on them for bringing in all these random bands throughout the world. And like even the American tour is pretty awesome.
Yeah, because it was
And
like you take a look at like the bands that Metallica's have on this tour, like for their support. I mean, there's a bunch of different ones on different dates, but they're bringing in, Ice Nine Kills. They're bringing in Five Finger Death Punch, which is like, okay, these are some different styles. They're bringing in Architects for a couple, which okay, now you're getting one of the bigger metalcore bands out there. Let's see how that goes. They're bringing in Greta Van Fleet. They're bringing in Mammoth WVH, which is just like, geez, you guys are just really picking it up there and really showing. They had like during 2022, during one of the times where no, that was the Knotfest one with it was Ice Nine Kills and Crown the Empire. I thought it was Metallica, but nope. There goes my brain into a completely different realm. When I heard Ice Nine Kills, I was like, wait a minute, I know even more about this. Let's keep going. But there goes my big brain moment. However, it's something that we need to see more of, and just because it elevates so many other bands. It helps you it helps the genre. It helps just helps the overall scene just grow. Take a look at the Bad Omens tour that's happening. They completely sold out. They brought Thousand Below on to open from. They're very good friends with Thousand Below. I recently had their lead singer James on the podcast, and it's like, okay, Bad Omens is a massive band right now. Like they're really starting to hit off on that. And let's they're good friends with Thousand Below. Thousand Below is just starting to get some momentum. Let's see if we can get them even some more momentum. Let's put them on there as well. And then that tour also has Make Them Suffer, Australian metalcore, which goes heavy as all hell. And then Dayseeker, which is just good old emotional stuff. It's like, this is a weird dynamic, but I saw the tour and it worked.
yeah, totally. And it's getting there. I mean, like I said, I'm getting up in age and I'm a father, and my touring days are going to be very difficult to do, and even going to shows has been super tough for me. But I mean, knowing that type of stuff is existing, and especially like even like straight edge, um, I have always had historically such kind of weird experiences with straight edge people. And so I've always been kind of seen adjacent to all of that. And I've never really wanted to get involved in it. I never really was part of, wanted to be with associated with any crews or any of that stuff. I am my way. If you're your way, awesome.
Mhm.
If you drink, we can still be friends. I'm not going to judge you. I just don't do it myself. And I don't understand why more people weren't that way. But now more people are that way. They're not jerks about it. And I've met way more straight edge people in the last 5 years that I have been like, we could be friends. Like I agree with you on stuff and we're not jerks about it. And it's so refreshing to see that after having been so long, been like, how are you acting like this? Like, stop it.
Maybe the positivity
Yeah,
in the music finally won everybody over and is starting to seep in and just bring more people together. Maybe that's it.
I
Maybe
hope
it's just
so.
a changing
Yeah.
ideal, but maybe music was a driving factor behind it. I'm just going to say it was because, that just makes music more powerful and makes music a more connective point for a lot of people and could bring a lot more people together. So, yeah, music. Woo!
Yeah. I had somebody asking me like what my version of straight edge was. And I was like, this is my version of straight edge. My version of straight edge, I don't have any tattoos and I don't do caffeine because it's more of just a personal choice to keep my
Mhm.
body clean. And I love tattoos. I, I'm not going to have any on me, but I love them. I'll go to tattoo conventions and check all that stuff out, but it's just not for me. And people get so mad at me, like that I'm sacrilegious about something because I don't have tattoos and I don't drink caffeine. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not forcing you to, I'm not judging you unless you've got some like weird underlying guilt about your path. And hearing me say mine is causing something to come out, but it's just like I do me, you do you. Let's be friends. Like, why do we have to argue? We're both here under the same flag, going towards the same goal, and like in music.
Mhm.
We all listen to music. We all enjoy something. We all have this thing here that no matter how it comes, it still is a positive force in our life, no matter if it's negative lyrics that we can identify with, positive lyrics, we know, hardcore, hip hop, whatever. Like, why can't we just enjoy this and not have to put so much stock in like, well, this person had this crazy meaning that meant something totally different than what they're saying, and I'm going to accuse them of that because I have nothing to do on a Thursday night. Like, and that happens so much.
It does happen, but I think that's kind of the one thing that helps out with especially your music and along with a lot of other music as well is, we're starting to see some more of everyone kind of latch on to certain positivity and positive aspects around it. So we're starting to see more of that. It's not necessarily acceptance, but more of that just camaraderie within, as different music fans and just not, being as gatekeepy or is just
Yeah,
strict or just assholish at times. We still see that, but we're starting to see a shift away from it, which is a good thing.
yeah,
And I mean, as long as that shift keeps going in that positive direction, then the music scene is going to be healthier than ever.
yeah. I am so happy to see. I mean, it's a visible shift, and it's not like a couple people are trying to do it and they're hitting a brick wall. It's been quite successful, and like just seeing shows and like and the popularity of Furnace Fest, like that is the best example of all types of people coming together because in all ages and all
Mhm.
walks of life, and they all enjoy that type of music and they can all pull something from it. And like all the booths that they had there was like every type of cause you could think of, and everyone's doing everything, and nobody was throwing batteries or tearing stuff down. Like, oh, that's cool. I don't agree with it, but awesome. Good on you for doing it. And seeing stuff like that is just so refreshing and makes you feel so good about people, especially with how bad it's been
Mhm.
historically. And even in the last couple of years, like we've had a huge reason to be extremely negative and let the world kind of bear down on us and just sink into this terrible spiral. And most people have taken all the junk that's happened and been like, you know what? I'm not going to let that affect who I am. I'm going to use that as a positive way to better myself and better the world around me. And I'm not going to let that drag me down into some, self-absorbed spiral of hate and darkness. And seeing that has been like the biggest motivator to present and produce more positive stuff, because you see it and you feel it and it's in the ether and it's coming in, and you're like, yep, things are not as bad as some people would want us to believe.
Yeah,
And if we continue to believe it, or to push against it, then it's going to just be this cyclical thing that makes everything better.
yeah. So we'll keep it up. We'll keep that positivity up, and the music scene becomes a more positive place. It bleeds into culture, becomes a more positive place, and we're not all dealing with the doom and gloom that we see every single day, or try or force to see every single day. We're focusing more on the positive, more on the good things in life, and just less mad about things. Like, let's just keep the positivity rolling. Let's keep this evolution going. Where, yes, it doesn't seem like in certain places it's happening right now, but especially in rock and metal, there are certain places where it's happening, and let's just let that thing grow. Let's keep it growing, and let's keep that positivity rolling.
Totally.
Well, Mark, as we bring this podcast to conclusion, one thing I'd like to do is give my guest, which is you, in this chance to say whatever you want to say, plug whatever you want to plug, promote whatever you want to promote at the end of the episode. So, Mark, the floor is yours.
Thank you all for the positive feedback that we've got. We've got something coming out. It's probably going to be in the beginning to maybe spring next year with that German band Axids. We're covering each other's song, and then I think we're going to try to throw in one more song and a cover. And our cover is going to be the Bird and the Bee cover. If you haven't heard them, it's an amazing. Anara George is like a jazz singer, and then Greg Kinner is like he's a producer for Peaches and stuff. And so it's beautiful music, and we are totally going to bastardize it and make it sound screamy. So hopefully we're going to be on the road more soon. And again, just thank you everybody for being so positive with this and taking such a positive message from what we're trying to do. And I hope it continues.
Hope it continues to. Now it's time for this podcast with 3 separate things. First things first, when it comes to Knelt Before, when it comes to Be Nice, the brand new album from them, and when it comes to everything else, future music, seeing them play live, and get that hardcore pause experience you want, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to the description of the podcast. There goes my tongue twister. You're going to see where it says Find Knelt Before online. You're going to see links and labels for everything, all their social media platforms, where you can find their music, where you can find where they're going to be playing live. Everything is going to be there. So all you have to do is click the link, follow, like, share, subscribe, buy those tickets, buy that merch, listen to music. Everything's going to be there for you. One click, one-stop shop. So I'm doing all the work for you. All you got to do is do the 2 clicks and you are set. So boom, taking care of that for you right there. Now, step for number 2, Mark, whenever a guest in the podcast that I absolutely enjoy having on the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise to say 2 things. One is thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for taking the time to do this. And number 2 is I wish to continue to support the band. Every artist I've ever had on this podcast has hit on this promise. And you, my friend, are continuing this trend, but might have to modify it depending upon what your preference is. So the promise is when. It starts with when's because it's this will happen. We just don't know what day. When I get you perform live for the first time, my promise is always that the first round is on me. Now, if you don't drink, we'll find something else to work within there. So either or, whichever works.
I'll just take a high five.
Take a high five and a hearty handshake. Like, there we go.
Or a hug. We could hug.
I might be ridiculously sweaty after being in the pit, so you might not necessarily want that.
I don't think that's ever stopped me in the past. So
fair enough. And number 3, as we bring this podcast to conclusion, I cannot end this by saying goodbye for 2 main reasons. 1, I don't like saying goodbye because I made you a promise and I have to keep that promise. And 2, goodbye is way too final. No, because I love this conversation. I can't wait to see you perform live. Sweaty ass hug. On top of that, I'd love to bring you back in the podcast. So can this be goodbye? Hell no, it can be not be. Hell no, it can't be goodbye. This has to be. I'll see you later.
All right. Thank you very much.
Whoa, folks. That was my interview with Mark from the band Knelt Before. Once again, Be Nice, their brand new album, is available now. Classic hardcore pop punk mix with very positive vibes all the way around. So go and check it out. Go and follow them on social media because they're going to have more new music coming out, and you're going to want to go and see them play live because hardcore shows with positivity, ooh yeah. So go to the description of the podcast and say find Knelt Before online. Links and labels for literally everything you might need. Social media, music, where you can find them play live, where you can get some merch, all that good stuff, links to the podcast. So again, thank you guys for being on the podcast. Also, make sure you're following along with the Chord Progression Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, links to the podcast, along with subscribing to the podcast on YouTube or on any of the audio streams, Spotify, Podcast, iHeart Radio, Amazon, and anywhere you might find it. Thank you, Brit Media, for helping us out with that. So hit that subscribe button. It helps us out tremendously if you're subscribed. If you like the content, if you like the music, if you like any of these bands, give us a subscribe, Merry Christmas to me. That could be a Christmas gift to me. Just hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much. If you're like, I'm already subscribed, thank you for already subscribing. You're doing good. So thank you. If you're not subscribing, you're like, I don't want to subscribe. That's, your personal choice. Totally understand, but you're always welcome back. And then you're always welcome to hit that subscribe button. So thank you very much for even listening. Also want to thank Phoenix Fitness for sponsoring this podcast. And free shipping code CPP20 at checkout. Once again, thank you, Mark, for bringing such positivity to the podcast as we are closing out the year for the Chord Progression Podcast, as we are going to Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. And that's it for me. Thank you for watching, listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how every single episode is big, healthy, and hearty. See ya! Yeah!